Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Scofield coming at you. It's Tuesday night. It's a little bit after 9 p.m. Where else would you rather be, Steelers fans? And with me as always, except when he's not, or when neither of us are, is my big brother Rich, Big Bro Sco. How's it going tonight?
Still suffering from the vacation hangover.
Now, what exactly do you mean by that?
Oh, just different schedule.
Yeah.
Just, back into the swing of thing at work and home and here and just, you get away from it and you finally get out of the routine and then you come back and it takes a couple days to get back into the routine.
The routine doesn't feel like the routine. I know exactly what you mean. Well, I'm off a little bit with stuff this week because my kids are at a camp that they have to be there up and early, which I am not used to. But hey, I'm making it work. But what's really nice for those of you that didn't know, we did not have a show last week. We were away. We were what I would call off grid when you're at a place that doesn't have Wi-Fi. If you wanted to. Plus, it's also nice when you're at a house and we never once turned on the television. That was pretty cool, too. 2 years in a row now. But we weren't here, but the preview came on, well, somewhat in our place, except they went about, 2.5 hours early. And then the homies bumped up the night to the preview. That we didn't do anything on the 4th of July. But bottom line is, we're back and better than ever, Rich. It's great to have you back. And you know what? It was really nice that, not really much of anything happened while we were away.
No, nothing really.
No. So it was really, obviously we're going to get into the title of the show tonight. And the title of the show, you know what? For some reason, it's blanking on me a little bit, and I'm trying to see what it is. It's the 5 biggest questions going into Steelers 2025 training camp. Because we do this time of year. We're keeping up with what we're doing to where we do these top 5 lists. So this time, it's the biggest questions going into training camp. Now we still have. I tell you what, it's crazy to think that 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be doing a show talking about the Steelers reporting tomorrow. That's how close we are now. I mean, this time really does go fast. You really don't want to wish it away, like Jeff Hartman says all the time. So we're gonna talk about biggest question marks. But I tell you what, that was really something when we're we're trying to get down to the beach and everything, and all of a sudden. Our nephew says to me, "You were already down at the water." I was still trying to get my family ready and down there. And
I saw about it before I left the house.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, because you weren't where I was. And because our nephew came to me and said, "The Steelers just traded for Jalen Ramsey," and I couldn't find my phone. I'm looking all over for my phone. I'm like, my phone can't be here because it would have blown up with all these Slack messages. And I couldn't find my phone. Finally find my phone. And then that's when I see that it was then for Minka Fitzpatrick. I'm sending our nephew he was down at the water because he was just walking out the door when he told me that. Told him that it was for Minka. He's like, "No, I don't like it. I don't like it." And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it. Then you find out that it's also for Jonnu Smith, a late round pick swap in 2027. Rich, when you first, because this is our first chance to really talk about it. It's been over a week. What was your first knee-jerk reaction whenever it went down?
Kind of hate to lose Minka, but sometimes doing something is better than doing nothing. And this was a big something. This was a big something. This wasn't go see what free agents are still out there on the scrap heap and bring them in. This was, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Like this was a purposeful, definitive move.
You took the words right out of my mouth that this is anything but running it back. This was, we are not just going to do the same thing. And I'm really excited about it. I don't know if it's going to work out great. I don't know how it's all going to fit together, but I just think it's extremely exciting. Just to the fact that the Steelers were willing to make a big move. I love that they're willing to make a big move. What they do, they traded for DK Metcalf, made a big move. Then people were wanting to make more moves, didn't do it. Eventually they signed Aaron Rodgers.
They traded George Pickens.
Yeah, then they traded George Pickens. I mean, I'm talking about a big move when it comes to the draft and stuff. Then you got George Pickens. Then you've got Aaron Rodgers. Then you've got this trade, just all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you look at it, Rich, do you realize, before we jump into this topic a little bit more, just to talk about this a little bit, I haven't even done defense yet, but looking at offense, do you know how many players on offense that started week 1 would be expected to start in week 1 this year?
How many, Dave?
Now remember, starting means playing the first snap of the game. The answer is 3. 3. And one of them's not even playing the same position in Broderick Jones. But the only players that started on offense in week 1 that are expected to start this year is Broderick Jones, different position, Zach Frazier, and Darnell Washington. Pat Freiermuth didn't start the game in week 1. They went with the 2 big tight ends, and it was Washington and Michael Pruitt.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Pickens and I think Van Jefferson. You know, Najee Harris and Justin Fields. I mean, just think of that. The Steelers' offense was not good enough, and do you know what they did? They changed a lot of stuff. Now, with the offensive line, a lot of that, I mean, they're pretty much, with the exception of Fatanu in, Jones over, Moore out, they're pretty much finishing they're starting the season pretty much how they finished it last year. So, but man, they didn't just sit back and do the same old thing. So, I think you're spot on there. Hey, I want to bring up something here real quick before we dive into our top 5 list. And that's this. Andre had a question, and I'm going to let you answer this one. Scho Bros, question for you. Will either of you be in Latrobe for training camp this year?
The answer for me is yes, but I do not know what day yet.
Yeah, because I knew you told me when we were together last week that you found out that you're most likely going. You just don't know when, because there was a talk about going. So I honestly, with me, I have no idea. If I end up going, I have more of a chance this year of trying to make it because it's afternoon practices and not morning practices. Last year when it was morning practices, I'm like, I don't know, I can't. So it really would depend more if anyone else is going and said, hey, want to go along. And what's going on with stuff with the fam. So at this time, I don't know, but I am fairly certain, I can tell you right now, I'm fairly certain that I know one game that I'm going to this year. That unless something comes up and we have to swap out stuff because of schedules, I am expected to go to the Cincinnati Bengals game in the middle of November. So almost the same dates as the game that I went to last week. I think Daniel J might be going to that game as well. So we'll be representing the 122 crew.
I have tickets for that game as well. I have Cincinnati and Cleveland and Buffalo and Indy. I'm going to be selling at least 2 of those. And really it doesn't matter to me which ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I will put that out there if anybody wants to hit me up looking for tickets. Mine are a little cheaper than Dave's because mine are a little
bit higher than mine.
Little higher than Dave's.
Yep. Mine are a little bit higher in price. Yours are a little bit higher in elevation.
There you go.
There you go. Rich, I'm ready to dive into this. So we had to talk about the trade. So I'm sorry that we're 10 minutes in, that we're getting to our list, but we didn't have our show last week. So I think it's exciting just to see something different. Different doesn't always mean better, but at least you can have. And the same doesn't always mean worse, but you have a better chance of different being better than you do the same being better, in my opinion. So So here we go. Let's do this. So Rich, so 5 biggest questions going into training camp. You ready to jump in and hit up number 5?
Yep, these are my 5. So, some of them are going to be a little more obvious, some not, and I kind of put them in order of importance to me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Importance to me, and honestly, I'll be honest with you, the order of mine could change between now and when training camp starts because there might be some other things that just come into focus.
Correct.
Yep.
So I have a couple of mine that maybe would as well. So,
all right. So hit me up with number 5.
All right, number 5. This one plays in because this question was there before the trade last week, and it's still there for me in some ways after the trade of last week. And that is, how do the Steelers plan, or what is their plan at the slot corner position? How are they going to do that? And now, after the trade last week, you see all these different things that they could do. Now the question is just, okay, what are they going to do? Or are they going to do things different throughout, change things up here and there? So it's just kind of, how are we going to put corners on the field?
You might feel better about that question now, but it's not that it was answered. It's just the different possibilities are better.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, you are spot on when you're talking specifically about slot corner when it comes to that, because that was a huge question. That was kind of the weak spot of the defense that we had been talking about during this offseason, especially in recent weeks. So now it doesn't look like it's going to be a weakness. You're just not sure how it's going to work, right?
Yeah, what's it going to look like?
That's a good way to put it. I didn't have that on there because I did it in a little bit of a different, not that different. Well, I'll talk more about that later. I'll just say that. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My number 5 is probably something that I'm going to have low on my list. We had it on other lists before, and you had it much higher when I had it lower. But my number 5 is, when and for how long is TJ Watt going to be back with the team? I have that question now, and I have it. The reason I think it should be top 5, but the reason I have it as the lowest one is because at asking that question for training camp, for me, it's nice to know, but it's not overly important. We saw what happened when TJ Watt wasn't in training camp the last time this went down, and the kind of season he ended up having.
You mean he won Defensive Player of the Year?
Yes, and set the NFL record for sacks and things like that. You can argue that he tied it. I still think he has one more than what they said, but that's okay. But like I said, I have it number 5 because I'm not overly worried about the question being answered at the beginning of training camp. If this was our top 5 questions going into the season, it would be way higher. Now, I don't think it's going to work out. I mean, I'm not concerned about it as per se, but it's still a big question. So the thing is, and when I say when, I said when and for how long, meaning, is it going to be an extension? Is it not going to be an extension where he's going to play out his contract and all that other stuff? Just, you'll have a bigger idea of how that will go. Is there anything you want to say about that, or you need to talk about it later, or what?
All right, number 4 on my list.
Okay.
Biggest question is, new contract for TJ? Question mark.
Yeah. I mean, which is honestly, based on what your number 5 was, I see why you would have put that just a little bit a little bit ahead of it.
Yeah, because honestly, it's ahead of it a little bit because the stuff about the corners with getting Jalen Ramsey into the fold now, that becomes less of a concern. That's more going to be of a curiosity.
Yeah.
Now, I'm like you. I put it down to I put TJ's contract down at number 4 because, again, that doesn't have to get done till well into training camp or before the first game of the season or whatever. I'm not stressing about that at the beginning of training camp.
Yes.
I will be at the end of training camp.
Yes. Actually, I would even say at the end of the preseason, because remember, they break camp right before
Yes.
their second even preseason game. I mean, even if they have a contract, they could have a contract worked out right now. And they're just holding off and not signing it just because they're like, hey, we didn't have a problem with this last time. We don't need to rush, you know? But I mean, I doubt that would really
I don't know.
be the case. But yeah.
I don't know because, Dave, if you stop and think about it, there could be some strategery to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that hey,
Yeah.
well, I think I brought it up on our last show. It could, could it be hey, TJ, let's not sign this contract yet. Let's just leave it as a holdout. That way, then we can let you rest up and heal up a little more without having to take you off the field and report that why you're not practicing.
Yeah. And honestly, if I was him, I would say, hold in again. Come work out on the side, be with the team, learn everything, do stuff. We all know that it's fine. We're just kind of, more of an excuse to not have to run the risk. I mean, I still think back of that preseason game. I don't even remember how long ago it was. It was when Hawkinson was still a tight end in Detroit. And he came through and hit TJ Watt's knees in a preseason game when neither player probably should have still been in the game. And it's stuff like that you're just like, yeah. So I'm fine, wrap him up in bubble wrap, unwrap him week 1. So we'll see how that all goes down. So you ready for my number 4?
Lay it on us.
Okay, my number 4 is this. Will Aaron Rodgers hold up? Meaning through training camp and throughout the season. Because bottom line is, if he gets dinged up, and the reason it's low on the list because I'm more worried about him holding up throughout the season. But you still talk about it at training camp, mainly because of what happened with Russell Wilson last year. He was out.
Okay.
He was back. He was hurt again right before the season. He didn't play for the first 6 games. All that kind of stuff. And it started in training camp. That's why I brought it up here, but it's really far down on my list. Just, seeing, is it working out, holding up, all that other stuff. Honestly, if Mason Rudolph has to play some, I'm okay with that. It happens. But it's still a question going into training camp. And you can start to see it in training camp. Also, to go along with that, is Aaron Rodgers going to get the Ben Roethlisberger schedule? The Ben Roethlisberger treatment?
Maybe.
Partial participant, full participant, day off. Partial participant, full participant, day off. I mean, that was Ben Roethlisberger's schedule through training camp. Is it going to be similar to that? Or is he going to get acclimated more? And is he going to be available from a health standpoint?
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Not something I'm going to be talking about later.
So do you want to talk about it now? You want to give your thoughts on it now?
After you talked about what happened with Russell Wilson, I can see why you would put that in. It's like because if that were to happen, that would have that same feel of we're just running it back, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And we're hoping not to have that. So let's just keep our fingers crossed on that, because I think it would be better for the Steelers as a team if Aaron Rodgers got more time with the team.
Absolutely. I think you're exactly right. So, Rich, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take our break here. It might be slightly early, but we're also working to try to not, it's the summertime. When you have a summer class, sometimes the professor lets you out early. Maybe we'll get to do that with people this week. But, we've got to make sure we have our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk in the second half and our top 3. We'll have our big question at the end. So if you're with us here live, we're not going anywhere. But if you're with us here on the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry,
All right, Rich, this is kind of almost like the relax, don't worry time of the season. Like I said, I still can't believe the Steelers pull off a blockbuster trade on June 30th. That just is not, that's not something I had on my bingo card for the Steelers offseason.
No.
No.
I don't know that anybody had that on their bingo card for the Steelers offseason.
Yeah, so here we go.
Except for maybe Omar Khan.
Omar Khan, because he's the insider trading, the insider's bingo cheat or whatever it is. But all right, so we're talking about our 5 biggest questions ahead of 2025 training camp. We've done that. We've both done number 5 and number 4. My number 5 was the TJ Watt situation, when he will be arriving and for how long will he be under contract when the season gets going. And my number 4 was Aaron Rodgers holding up, staying healthy, and how much he's what kind of a work schedule he's going to have during training camp. You had questions at the slot corner as number 5, meaning
/ cornerback utilization.
Yes, with that. And then number 4, you had the TJ Watt contract situation.
Yes.
So we're there. So you're ready to go ahead to number 3?
Yep. All right, number 3. Who grabs the bull by the horns and wins the wide receiver 2 spot?
Wide receiver 2. Okay. Yeah.
And that's really what it.
And is that person even on the roster right now?
Correct. As the roster sits right now, we're playing it exactly that way. Who's going to grab the bull by the horns and show that they're the man to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good one that I didn't have on my list, and I should have. I really should have. Honestly, I'm going to say something. I'm not overly concerned about wide receiver 2 now, because I put this in the live chat of the breaking news show when you and I were sitting on the beach. Jeff and Brian are going. We're watching on the phone. I put it into the live chat. I've had a lineup in mind for years, and I've never got the Steelers to use it very often. This year, I think they might. I've talked about this on Pittsburgh Standard Time a bunch. I want to see the Steelers have more weapons on the field. You all right? What?
I suppose.
Okay. So my lineup goes without a wide receiver 2.
Okay.
You're saying, well,
I get what you're saying, but you're starting to stray from topic.
Infringe? No, and what I was going to say is that's why I didn't have the wide receiver 2 as the most as the most important thing anymore, because man, I would like to see some 3 tight ends. I really would. It is still important, and it's a big issue with the Steelers, and I should have had it on my list, but I didn't. Instead, my third biggest question, and this might be maybe higher on your list or maybe not at all, is the O-line going to work? Is what they have, both starters and as reserves, do they have the right pieces and working in the right way for the offensive line to work together? That's what I have for my number 3.
See, that's less of a question for me.
See, and that's why I say, like you're crazy. You were I know you said about the Steelers' offensive line being a strength. I mean, going into the season, they're ranked like, was it like 21st in the NFL? Something like that. I mean, it's in the 20s. So I'm a lot more concerned about it.
We did not get to see last year. We did not get to line up the way we were going to line these 5 up to start this year, right?
Yeah.
And I would take the 5 going to start this year over the way the 5 started last year. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
To me, what is going to be trot out there is probably what I thought was the best 5 last year and how it should have looked last year. And now you've got, Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier with some serious games under their belt. I expect these guys. I expect this line to be kind of nasty.
Yeah.
And they were really showing flashes last year of becoming very nasty.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. James Daniels was playing fantastic until he got hurt. So
yes,
that's why he got a decent contract. Like he was like the highest rated guard. If you're talking like PFF scores, but I know you may not care. People might not care about those, but still, he was like the highest rated guard when he got hurt. So it's not like I wanted Mason McCormick over James Daniels last year.
no, but I knew James Daniels was
Was probably not sticking around.
right. Was probably not going to be a Steeler this year.
Yeah.
So since that was the case, McCormick getting to get some of those games in last year
That was really helpful.
was very helpful for this year.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm not saying that the O-line was a concern, but they don't crack my top five. I'm not saying I didn't think about that, but to me, if I were going down a list, that's probably down around 7 or 8.
There's probably a lot of people that think that should be number one. Yeah.
And that's fine because everybody has their own things that they look at and they have the concerns about. Now, actually, Dave, it might be outside of my top 10, except for the fact that they need to hold up, play well, and keep Aaron Rodgers clean.
Yeah.
You know, if I wasn't worried about that as much, that the stuff on the O-line might slide even a little lower for me.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at it, Mason McCormick, he's coming into his second year as a fourth round pick. The expectations were low for him last year. I think the expectations are higher. It was like, you know what? He's trying really hard, and he's a fourth round draft pick rookie from an FCS school. He can't have the same break next year. He's got to get the job done if he's going to be a starter. And I think he outplayed Spencer Anderson to deserve that job last year. And Spencer Anderson has been quite a surprise as a seventh round pick. Guys that don't often make the roster, that he seems like he's some at least decent depth and had some quality starts for the team last year. Also remember McCormick didn't even play in the playoff game because he was hurt, because he had broken his hand, if you remember that.
Yes.
But Isaac Seumalo, he's still up there as when people think of guards. Zach Frazier, he's expected to be one of the top centers in the league. It really does come down to the tackles. It really does.
Yep. It does.
And honestly, I have a lot of faith in Troy Fautano's ability. But the one thing that concerns me, just because we haven't seen it yet, is his durability, meaning his availability. I'm not saying I expect him to not be available. I'm just saying I need to see him available before I can expect him to be available.
Yes.
I think the best way to say it.
Yep.
So, all right. Is that enough offensive line talk?
Yeah.
All right, Rich.
I'm good with that.
Then talk to me about your number 2.
Number 2. Does the defense mix things up, or do they stay more vanilla like they were last year? Because honestly, the defense was more vanilla than we were used to seeing. There was a lot of just line it up, especially across the front, just line it up man on man and go. Wasn't a whole lot of exotic blitzes or things like that. It was very, very base and depended on the playmakers to make plays. Are we going to roll that back again this year, or are we going to mix it up and throw some different wrinkles to the defense?
That I don't have that one at all, because that's a really good one. It is a concern.
I forget where I was reading today, but I was reading it, and there was that, and that was what was coming up about the defense, and I'm like that. It just struck a note with me when I was reading about it today, and was just like, you're right. Especially the second half of the year last year, the defense was very vanilla.
I think there was a reason for that. They weren't that very good of a pass defense. And I think that they couldn't take a lot of liberties because they had some serious weaknesses there. So if they shored that up.
I was reading some stuff talking about, maybe that's why they went out and got Darius Slay and made a trade for Jalen Ramsey and were willing to give up Minka, because the issues defensively wasn't where Minka was having to play deep safety. he was fine, but you can find a lot of other guys that can be fine at that. The question is, teams stayed away from having to worry about T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith because they just took the ball, drop 2 steps, and throw it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could.
Yeah.
Because there was always somebody there that was open. Because of how the Steelers had to play their secondary to try to, take away the big plays, didn't allow made it so that the quarterback didn't have to hold the ball very long, and just took the short plays and then stayed away from the Steelers' front guys being allowed to do what they do.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up something that actually takes this thing that you've brought up and refutes it a little bit, but changes the focus to something else. And that is, did the Steelers did they just try to keep doing the same thing and hope that it worked better and went very vanilla at times? But what's the biggest reason, in your opinion, that the Ravens ran all over the Steelers in the playoff game? To me, it was the way they chose to change up how they were defending the option, meaning where Lamar could hand it off to Derrick Henry or he could pull it and run. And normally it would be the outside guys have the quarterback, the inside guys have the running back. And the Steelers thought, well, maybe they would catch the Ravens off guard, and they're going to have the T.J. Watts and Alex Highsmith crashing down on the running backs, and then have outside guys be responsible for Lamar. It didn't work.
It didn't work at all.
But it didn't. But it's not that they just kept trying, not that they were just went into the game trying to do the same thing. They took a shot to do something different. And now, why did they do it? Was it a poor choice? Did it have a lot to do with the health of their inside linebackers, with Patrick Queen being sick and then other things like that? The problem with that is if Derrick Henry made it through those crashing down outside linebackers, there was a chance to really rip off the run.
Yeah.
Which happened a couple times. So yeah, there was some. So that's what I'm going to say. It's not that they didn't go into that game saying, we're just going to do what we did before and we're going to hope to be better. But you know what? They should have. I understand you come up with a game plan, but sometimes you have to throw out the game plan if it's obviously the wrong thing.
Yeah. But the other thing there, though, too, Dave, and that's where I think we're going to be a little better this year because of the changes at corner. Yeah. And that was because you had to play your secondary in a certain way, it really put a limit on the things you could do with the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
There were only so many things you could do with them because you had to make sure you had things covered on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were trying to do other things, and here's the problem. I'm going to ask you this question because I think it's a good question. They said they had a lot of issues with communication in the secondary. Whether you think that was Minkah Fitzpatrick, whether you believe that was Dante Jackson, whether it's the person I thought it was in Cam Sutton, whether it was any of those, maybe you could say Beanie Bishop, but he wasn't even playing all that much by the end. Was the problem that the Steelers did this game plan? It wasn't working, but they couldn't get out of it because those type of players couldn't adjust to it.
Potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. That they had people that you're going to have to stick to the plan or not. I'm not saying they necessarily did, but I'm just throwing that out there as an option. So, but no, that's a really good one. We should get moving on with our list. But yeah, that vanilla defense thing, that's a big question. But I'll be honest with you, when it comes to training camp, I don't see us getting an answer to that question because guess what they're going to do at training camp and in the preseason? No, during the preseason games, you're going to keep it vanilla. If you want to see it, you'd have to see it at training camp.
Correct.
At practice.
You have to, yes.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, my number 2 is how the Steelers are going to work all this out at cornerback. Which is I have that as number 2. Okay? Because, I mean, think about it. There is a log jam at outside cornerback. I've still got people there. We have a commenter on the website that, man, he types the very same first opening line for every comment. He makes fans from the 70s look terrible by his takes.
Yeah, he does.
But he is all about how these other guys need benched and it needs to be Corey Trice. And I'm like, I like Corey Trice. I would love to see Corey Trice develop into a good cornerback. But Corey Trice has played 6 games. Okay?
Yeah.
And Darius Slay has 6 Pro Bowl seasons. And Jalen Ramsey, I think, has 7. You know what I'm saying? So you're not going to bench those guys to play a guy that's played 6 games and think that that's going to be your answer. Now, that could be your long-term answer, and they could help with the development. But right now, I mean, how in the world can James Pierre be on this roster? Just going down through everything.
You can't.
You know? Does this mean that, hey, you filled in for a little bit when we were weak there, but we made sure you were stronger. Thank you for your services, Beanie Bishop. Where does Brandon Eccles fit in now?
Yeah.
If you only have 2 corners on the field, who's it going to be? I'm not saying that's a bad question, but it's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a big question. Yeah. So that was my number 2.
What do you think the roster looks like at the end? How many corners they keep?
Well, can I answer that question after I give my number 1?
Yes, you can. Yes,
okay.
You can. All right. My number 1. Will the Steelers offense put the other team's defenses in matchup purgatory?
That's why you didn't want me to talk about that.
That's why you were going too far. So, will the offense put the other team's defense in matchup purgatory? Because you and I have talked about, we've had rosters before where that could be the possibility. And the Steelers have never taken advantage of it.
Not never. Not significantly. I mean, my goodness, they do it like
Seldom.
5. They do it like 5 snaps in a season.
Yeah.
That's not taking advantage of it.
That's not taking advantage of it.
It's not never, but it's like it's as close to never as you can get.
It's using it as a gimmick when it could be used as more of a game plan. I think you and I talked about, I'd love to see Jalen Warren in the backfield, 3 tight ends, DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
Give Aaron Rodgers the ability to look and say, okay, how are they going to try to defend us? Oh, they're staying nickel, trying to defend the pass. Okay, we'll take our 3 big tight ends and we'll just run the ball down your throat.
Yeah.
Or, oh, hey, we've been run the ball. You're going to try to stop that? Okay, quick audible. Hey, we got these big guys can move and get out and catch the ball in space. Hey, we like them matched up on linebackers. Let's do it.
How do you, I mean, and you've got a quarterback you can trust to do it.
Yep.
I mean, how do you do, I mean, my goodness, even, because that's why I say, give me Metcalf, give me Freiermuth, Washington, and Smith, and Jalen Warren. Even if Jalen Warren doesn't go out on a pass, he's such a good pass-protecting running back.
Yes.
If you want to send everybody else out. You know, I think of it this way. If you were the Steelers' defense, how would you match up against that? And the Steelers have a great defense.
Mm-hmm.
How's anyone else going to do it?
And the reason I put that as number 1, where are you going to see that first? Where's the first you're going to see if the Steelers are thinking about doing that more often?
7 shots.
Yep, exactly.
I took a shot and got it.
You start seeing more of that when the Steelers are doing 7 shots. Then you're going to know, hey, this could be a bigger part of the offensive scheme.
Yeah. I agree.
I would say this.
That's big.
I trust this could happen more with the offensive coordinator we have now versus the offensive coordinators we've had when we've brought this up before.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I saw a comment and I got distracted.
Okay.
And that's because Brian Brown said, well, Patrick Queen needs to get better from his severe case of missed tackleitis. Now, I don't know about the playoff game when he was sick. How many missed tackles do you think Patrick Peterson had during the regular season last year, according to Pro Football Reference?
3.
So remember,
Just guessing.
the number of tackles that he had was 129 tackles.
Okay.
The number of missed tackles was 9.
That's a pretty good percentage, if you ask me.
Yeah, 6.5% is what they said. Yeah. Lowest of his career. Higher missed tackles in Baltimore. And honestly, who's going to miss the most tackles a lot of times on your defense?
Oh, your inside linebacker.
It's your inside linebackers, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Pittsburgh Toddy says 20 missed tackles. No, Pro Football Reference, 9. They haven't missed 9. Now, I haven't checked PFF because if I bring up PFF during the show, it's going to mess up my feed. So, yeah. But yeah, 9 missed tackles in last year. And like I said, not counting the playoff game. I don't know about that. What happened there? So, you're okay. So, I love yours. Offense doing the matchup thing. I almost talked about that before we got into their top 5 list. Then I talked about it a little bit in the middle. But if they could do that matchup, then you don't need a wide receiver 2. But other people brought up about wide receiver 2. One thing that you need a good thing for a wide receiver 2 is what happens if your wide receiver 1 goes down for a while.
Yeah.
That's what you need it for as much as anything, whether or not you're going to use it a bunch. So, all right, you ready for my number 1 question? It's funny.
Yes.
Your number 1 I didn't even have. My number 1 you didn't even have.
Okay.
You ready? What's the plan at safety?
Okay. Another one that I thought about, but it ended up, my ones down there at the bottom in the 4 and 5 range are because there's things that I'm not super concerned about, or there are things that, what do I want to say? The answer is there. We just don't know what the answer is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I am when it comes to the safety stuff. The answers are there.
That's why it's such a big question. It's a huge question because to me, the biggest, I kind of have number 1 and number 2 combined with cornerback and safety. You've got a log jam at quarterback. You've got deficiency at safety. Safety was fine. I love the 3 safety look when you're talking about Minka as the number 1, Deshaun Elliott is the number 2, arguably, and Juan Thornhill was the number 3. I'm not very happy about the safety room if it's Deshaun Elliott 1 and Juan Thornhill 2. And then what, Sebastian Castro or Miles Killebrew 3?
No.
Not so much.
No,
so the question...
That's not how it's good. But see, to me, that's not how it's going to play.
To you.
To me.
But is it really? Because I want to bring up an alternative of what some people might not think. How do you think it's going to play? That's why it's such a big question, because we don't know how it's going to play. What do you think?
I'm thinking that if you want to go to 3, if you want a 3 safety look, you're Elliott, Thornhill, and Ramsey.
Yeah.
Because he's played snaps at safety.
Mm-hmm.
So do you, that's why I asked, what do you think the cornerback room looks like, or in the safety room looks like, when I was kind of saying before, because technically with Jalen Ramsey could do either.
You're right, but here's my question.
Can do both within the same game. It's like he's good enough, and he's got the football IQ enough. He could do it. Again, don't know if that is a plan or not, but it could be.
Because here's one that I want to throw out there that could be a plan. What if, because it's late in his career, you see a Rod Woodson type move of someone moving from corner to safety, and it's Darius Slay that makes the move?
Possibly.
My first thought was, when I first heard about this, was I'm like, I think they should move Slay to safety. Then there's more talk about how Ramsey can play all over and everything else and all that. And I'm like, yeah. Because here's my biggest question. Steelers line up week 1, first game against the Jets. Jets come out in, I don't know, let's say they come out in 12. Looks like they're going to run the ball. Maybe even 22. Maybe they got a fullback out there or something. Steelers are in base defense, meaning 3 defensive linemen. Their nose tackle is on the field. Who are your 4 defensive backs? My vote would be...
I can't answer that till we get further into camp.
Exactly. That's why it's such a big question.
No,
That's my point. It's a huge question because you don't know. That's why it's a big question for me. I'm not saying that they don't have the pieces. I'm just saying I don't know how they plan on working those pieces.
See, I even look at it that if the Steelers are in base, I even look at it as a thing where it's like, okay, we're keeping Slay and Ramsey and JPJ all on the field at the same time, no matter what. And when we're down to only using 2 corners, that's when you're running off, you're running in an extra linebacker, and you're running off a safety, and one of those corners is popping to safety.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. Because to me, I'm like, you want your best players out there as often as you can. So if you're in your base defense, I don't know who's at corner and who's at safety, but the 4 players I want out there is Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, and Deshaun Elliott. That's who I want. Now, who lines up where? I don't know. I don't care. Figure it out to make it the best you can make it. But that's the 4 I would like out there.
Yeah.
When it comes to it. So, and then, because I like Juan Thornhill much more as your 3rd safety than as your every down safety. Doesn't mean that he can't do it. Maybe he's just fine. But if you had to choose between taking off one of those corners to put Juan Thornhill on the field, is that something you would like to do? Personally, no. And I haven't even really seen Juan Thornhill in a Steelers uniform. I just know what he was with the Browns and then the Chiefs before that. So I don't know how they're going to do it. But I think they have a lot of pieces to get pretty darn creative. I just want to see them. This kind of brings in exactly what you're talking about with your number 2. Figure out safety, figure out corner in a way to where it's not a vanilla defense, because you're going to have so many different ways that you could do it. Sound good?
And allow players to go make plays.
Yes. So that what I said about maybe letting people go early, and then of course we really got off on these last ones. So Rich, why don't you go ahead and recap your 5?
All right, 5. What's the plan at slot corner? 4. New contract for DJ. 3. Who wins the wide receiver 2? 2. Does the defense mix it up or stay more vanilla? And number 1, will the offense put teams in matchup purgatory?
All right, and my 5 go, when and in what capacity is TJ Watt going to be available? Meaning how long he'd be into the future. Can what's things going to look like with Aaron Rodgers, both from a health standpoint and how he's utilized during camp standpoint. Can he last long term through the season? Number 3 is the offensive line fitting together to be the best they can be. 2 is how are they going to work how are they going to work the log jam at cornerback? And then number 1 to go along with that, how are they going to fill in for their now more open spots at safety? Which I think one answers the other, but how are they going to do both of those together? And that's mine. Rich, if we're going to get going and do 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk, we better get started. So what's our topic here tonight since it's your turn?
All right. Topic here tonight. Don't ask me why in the world this is our topic other than the fact I forgot to think of one. So I was sitting here trying to think of one, and this was one of the first ones that popped into my head, and I haven't been able to think of anything better. So since we were on vacation last week, I did get to go across the street from where we stay to a little ice cream, well, technically not ice cream, froyo place known as the Surf and Spoon. Okay, Dave, since it's been hot and it's summertime and we like to talk about, we've talked about barbecue and all this other stuff. Let's shift gears and go to ice cream / froyo. What are the best toppings?
Oh, the best toppings?
The best toppings for your ice cream or froyo.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to say this. If you're doing one of the best desserts ever, where you're having brownies and ice cream, all you need is chocolate sauce or hot fudge, whichever you want to call it. If you've got the brownie with it, that's all you need. You could throw in the chocolate, what people would call chocolate sprinkles, or we would call it chocolate jimmies. Okay, you can do that, but you don't need to when it's just that. Now, it really comes down to, in my opinion, there's a difference between soft serve and traditional scooped ice cream. Soft serve is when you can get a little bit more into it. I do like the chocolate sauce. I like if it's not peanut butter flavored in the I said coffee because I get coffee ice cream a lot. If there's not peanut butter flavor in the ice cream, maybe some peanut butter syrup, some whipped cream, and give me some cookies and cream crumbles on it as well when it comes
Oreo
to the
crumbles.
toppings. Oreo crumbles.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. If that's what I was going to do. I'm not into all the gummies, like gummy worms or gummy bears and all that.
Oh, no, not that.
I'm not into that.
Nope.
I'm also not into the stuff that they have with like the boba tea or whatever, the little that you could sometimes get with ice cream, the little, what are they called?
I just call them little gelatin balls.
Yeah, those kind of things. I'm not really into that as much. To me, I could take, whether you call it caramel or caramel, okay, and or peanut butter, depending on the flavor of your ice cream that you have with it. Like if I'm having chocolate soft serve, give me peanut butter. If I'm having like coffee scooped ice cream, the hard ice cream, just give me some hot fudge, give me some whipped cream, and give me some Oreo crumbles, and I'm good to go.
All right, I'm definitely a hot fudge kind of guy, especially depending on the flavor of ice cream or froyo. One of my favorites, believe it or not, is coconut froyo and hot fudge.
Ooh, I don't know that I've ever had coconut frozen yogurt.
Oh, I every time I can get it, I get it. So, let's see, I'm trying to remember the froyo I had while we were down there. Actually, I had two kinds. I had a little bit of cheesecake, but the majority of it was, and Alex picked it for me, and now I can't remember what it was. Anyway, hot fudge, but also went with some like brownie because I like brownies. And
yeah, if you don't have like a big brownie, you want brownie pieces on it. That works too.
And you can they did little pieces of cookie dough, so you could actually put take any ice cream flavor, make it into cookie dough. But yeah, for me, I don't need a ton of toppings except for hot fudge. Like just put the ice cream and just load it up with hot fudge, and and I'm pretty good. I'm not even big on whipped cream.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but I don't have to have it.
Unless I'm more likely to get it if I'm at an ice cream shop where I know that I'm getting the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing better than, well, you know this from being out here in farm country, because out here you can get the real deal when it comes to whipped cream.
Yes.
And there's nothing better for whipped cream.
Yeah.
So,
like I went to a shop down there that had a drive to it. It was called Cookies and Cream because they made great cookies, and then they had ice cream. It was it was the hard scoop ice cream. And I got their cookie sundae. I got a chocolate chip cookie and both scoops of coffee with whipped cream and hot fudge. And it was phenomenal. It was. So to me, if you have something like a cookie or a brownie with your ice cream, that changes up you don't want too many other toppings with it. You really don't.
Correct. Well, believe it or not, I consider that a topping.
Yes.
Even if it's underneath, I still consider it a topping. Technically, the ice cream's the topping, but
Yes, exactly. So good stuff. Good stuff. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and stop it. We've got 11 seconds left, so we're going to go ahead and roll. Okay. And I'm trying. Yep. There we go. We turn it off. The alarm won't even go off. So we're going to get to the big question. You and I have already answered it. It's going to be for you all. What is your biggest question going into training camp? So we did our top 5. Obviously, Rich's biggest one was will the offense use their matchups? Mine was how are they working out the safety position? I'm going to type it in there. I don't even know if this works as much on our new platform, but we'll see if it's there. It did? Okay. I don't have it yet on my screen.
No, I don't have it on my screen either, but as I told you, I was going to keep an eye on the YouTube. It's on the YouTube.
Yep. There we go. Except it called me Jeff. Yuck. But that was only if people were on Riverside. So there we go. So as those come up, we got to give them a couple minutes for them to get there. Yeah, because some people must be behind because they said about PFF having Queen with 20 missed tackles. As I said, Pro Football Reference, I trust their stats more. Their stats actually line up with the Steelers, what the Steelers put out there with what the actual NFL stats are. They actually do them. They go with the official stats, not just doing what their graders see. Not the PFF is what I like PFF for the best is alignments and how they do that. How often is a player like a wide receiver? How often are they in the slot? How many are they out? How often are they wide right versus wide left and things like that? That's I think their most useful information that they do. So anyway, but yeah, that's. I mean, I go to Pro Football Reference, type in Patrick Queen, you're going to see that they had him with 9. Okay, all right. So here we go. Things starting here. Afton says, "Who runs the defense?" The inside linebackers.
Okay.
I mean, I think that might even be like a green dot question as much as anything. Mm-hmm. I gotta love Kathy's. Will the beehive be open?
If so, we'll know where bad is.
Yeah. Then we've got TD Tom Dessenberger saying the DBs, how they're going to work everything out, which I could have done as one category, but I even split it into 2 and had as my top 2. I've got to wait till they come up because it doesn't show me last names on here until I do. John S. says TJ Watt. It's starting to keep him up at night. That's his biggest question. Then we get people still talking about ice cream, which is great. Yeah, and then Matthew said, "Yeah, I'm behind Dave." Let's see. I'm trying to make sure which one we have. I mean, people are just having good conversations, which is great.
I'm even trying to look on my YouTube to see because it's a little more up to date, but there's not. There's questions to other people, other stuff going on in the live chat, but I don't think there are answers to.
Which is no big deal, which is fine because honestly, a lot of people talked about it during the show.
I know they do.
Which is just what it is. We get a lot more whenever we give our scores at the end. And we're also, because we're using a new streaming service in Riverside, we're still getting used to how the comments, everything are working. I didn't say at the beginning of the show, I meant to. If you gave us a super chat, as of right now, the last
didn't
time I
see-
used this,
I
they
didn't see
didn't
one.
show up. Okay. That's what they had. So with that, I think, like I said, I still don't know what's going on with Steel City Insider because of this is Jim's time a year off. I don't know if they're back this week now that we're after the 4th. That's been something that I just haven't been able to find out anything about for sure or exactly when they were going. But other than that, we're back to our regular YouTube schedule. We should be back to our regular schedule. It looks like if there is a Steel City Insider this week, it won't be at our regular Wednesday time. It would be later, if at all, just because that. Other than that, we're here. Make sure you check it out, steelcurrentnetwork.com, which is funny because I know some people are talking about PFF, blah blah blah. And what do I do with a bunch of articles? I report on where PFF has certain, like right now I'm going through positional rankings, showing how the Steelers, today was how the Steelers wide receivers pre-Jonnu Smith trade, because that's when they did the article, was they had him at 29th. Not wide receivers, just receivers. That includes tight ends and running backs and all that stuff. So I have those kinds of articles coming tomorrow. It'll be a defensive one.
You got another one for a couple more for the
Okay.
last three.
There we go.
Mark.
How about Mark?
Yep, Mark.
Mark Tobin says guard play, big concern. John Walter says O-line improvement. Okay, then we get Matthew Mullaney says line play, DL and OL. That's a good way to put it. So those are all great stuff. So, but yeah, as I was saying, make sure you're checking out steelcurrentnetwork.com as well with all the stuff that we have going on there. Rich, I think we got all the stuff here. So,
Yep, and I've been keeping an eye on YouTube as well. I think we've got
and of
everything.
course, I wanted to let people go early, but our top three, we really got into some good discussion there. So, Rich, what do you have to say here to close us out tonight?
Dave, we're home from vacation.
Yeah.
You know what's next after vacation? Training camp. Woo!
Yep. Here we go. Pittsburgh Toddy said safety. Okay, there you go. Woohoo.
I just can't believe how, we sit and we wait, and then the next thing you know, everything is suddenly on top of us. And that's where we're getting to. We're getting to it's like, oh my goodness, in 2 weeks we're going to be talking about Steelers reporting training camp the next day.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's down to only 2 weeks? Like,
Yeah.
That's crazy, because it seemed like just yesterday we had months to go. Hey, people better stay out there and stay tuned, because as we learned last week, who knows what's going to go on with the Steelers. You could just be bebopping along, sitting on the beach having a vacation, and they start, wheeling and dealing left and right. Hey, all I can say is this. Doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, what's up. When things come up with the Steelers, I'm going to be on top of it. I'm always going to be paying attention, because the season's coming, baby. Can't wait.
Right.